One, two, three.
Welcome to the Smartest Amazon Seller Podcast. Excited to jump into what we have today. Someone that represents kind of we're gonna circle around a word called the digital shelf, and think of it from from a very large brand's perspective of like what's challenging about e-commerce, about lots of products, lots of images. I mean, I almost think that AI has in some ways like tripled the amount of like content that a brand can build. And so certainly some inflections happening right now in the industry. I have with me an expert, founder of the Digital Shelf Institute.
Not founder, didn't found it, but I can't take credit for that, but I do lead it. So
okay. Lauren Gilbert. I knew you might not be the founder, but I still want to give you that tag. You know,
I appreciate it.
So welcome.
Thank you.
First, just explain to us, like, what's the Digital Shelf Institute? What's the digital shelf, so to speak? And then we can kind of like, blur into like how like it's kind of adapting to today, and how an e-commerce professional should think about it.
Yeah, sounds good. And actually, before I get into that, Adobe just put out a new study, and they expect that AI is going to increase the amount of data that brands need by 5x. And I actually believe it's going to be even more than that. So I agree with your point completely.
That they need or create?
Create.
Okay. Yeah. No, totally.
So it's going to get exponentially more when it comes from a data perspective. So I totally agree with you on that. Yeah. But thank you for having me. So like you said, I lead the Digital Shelf Institute. So also known as the DSI, that's how I'll say it because it's a mouthful on a podcast. But the DSI is a community of brand and retail leaders across the e-commerce space. So we have 11,000 members, which is really exciting. We just hit 11,000. And that's your brand manufacturers who are in seat today, working on e-commerce, working on commerce. And the whole goal is really to bring people together. This is hard. We're all figuring it out together. So it's really about community and creating content and having a space where everyone can really kind of talk and figure it out. And we center it around the digital shelf because the way that we define the digital shelf is that it's a collection of digital touch points wherever a consumer either discovers, evaluates, or purchases a product. So it's not just going to Amazon and buying a product. You could be in the store checking your phone.
I think, most people will experience, like, if you type in a product into Google, like, you'll probably see 5 different directions you can go. You'll see Amazon, Target, Walmart, their D2C. You'll see maybe even small retailers, whatever. And so that's probably, like almost an easy way to like visualize like, well, okay, it's multiple touch points.
Yeah. So, and then there's multiple kinds of shelves, right? You have the physical shelf, you have the digital shelf, and now there's another layer, the agentic shelf that consumers are dealing with, but also brands are dealing with, right? So like what are the different elements of those shelves? How do you optimize and create content for it? And it has very different strategies, different teams inside your organization that might be working on that. And you now have that added layer of the agentic shelf.
Yeah. Sounds complicated.
Just a tad.
When you say agentic, that's where I'm like, okay, uncertain. You may even see competing ideas out there. Like what I mean is like, I think there's like even some competing protocols, like the way that like Amazon wants things to go versus like Shopify. And
Google and I mean, I think the word agentic gets thrown around a lot. I would say as an industry, we have not decided on a definition. Agentic commerce has many different definitions depending on who you talk to. The way that I define it is that it's autonomous shopping on behalf of a consumer by an agent. So that autonomous element. Yeah. But I also really kind of look at, and we're not there yet.
No.
I don't know if we're ever going to be there yet. I don't know about you, Scott, but I don't know if I want an agent
Where was I? I was in a spot where like someone asked the question, like, do you like shopping? And like most of the women in the room were like, yep. Like I don't want a robot to take that away from me. Like
I completely agree.
And I was actually kind of against like this idea of like Alexa becoming like, a mainstay to like buying stuff on Amazon. I'm like, no. If you're going to type in Nike shoes, you want to see the Nike shoe that you're going to buy. Like, so, that's one layer that I think, if you're just a purist data nerd, like you're going to think, of course, people want like stuff done for them, but no, not fully.
No, it takes away the element of the joy of shopping. And there is a piece of that. I'm preparing for a presentation and I was looking up some old articles and it was like, the mall is dead. Like no one will ever go to a store again. And this was like in 2017 and the mall, it's not dead. It's changed. People still go to the store. Yeah. Like there's a lot of hype and a lot of drama, but people are forgetting that we're humans.
Yeah. And even if you were like, to like, even go like, let's not be like pure consumerists. It's, maybe we buy what we buy, we want to buy for life, or what we buy, like we want to care about like what's in our homes. My wife kills me if I buy something stupid. I mean, I still do it, but like she cares about like what we have that just sits around and like if it's going to end up in the trash or whatever. And so, like there's still, I don't know, there's still a human element that you just can't fully get rid of. So
100% agree. And that's also why I think about agentic commerce on a spectrum. Most people today, when they say agentic commerce, are more referring to discovery. So using a ChatGPT or a Gemini to discover a product.
That's where I've worked on solutions, or one that's actually on visibility. So I've covered that. Like it's like I bought a treadmill 2 weeks ago. You better believe I was like, I needed to like uncover, feel like I was exhaustive in the type of treadmill that I wanted. And like, I don't know, like things get different when I buy for my wife. It's like, no. I have to show up for real. I have to tell her like, no, this is best. You got it.
And it's a high consideration product, right? Like you're dropping 1,000 or plus on a treadmill. And I think that's another thing that you need to take into consideration when we talk about like the agentic shelf. If you're buying toilet paper, it's a very different kind of level of need to focus on the agentic shelf versus like you're buying a computer or a treadmill or something. High consideration.
A little bit like, so if a brand wants to like, okay, this visibility, I buy in, what's things that they can do?
Yeah, so I think there's a couple of different approaches. So the first one, I would say, if you're focusing on like retailer LLMs or retailer bots, like a Rufus on Amazon, it's a little bit of a different approach than if you're talking about like ChatGPT or Gemini. So from an Amazon perspective, they've taken a different approach to the LLM, right? Like Rufus is closed. They're not allowing, and I'm air quoting, you can't see me on the podcast, they're not allowing other LLMs to scrape Amazon. There's a couple of loopholes there that it shows up sometimes, but Rufus is more of like a closed agent for Amazon. If you haven't done this, Scott, it's really interesting. You should go on and ask Rufus what it knows about you. It's quite terrifying, and it'll give you like your full profile, but try it.
I get weird stuff recommended to me all the time because like I do like revenue estimations on like niche categories. So
you gotta use incognito.
What it thinks about me is, I mean, like you're on Amazon all day long.
It knows so much about us though. But when you think about Rufus, the way that it looks at content is slightly different than like the traditional content creation that you're used to, right? So like from a traditional PDP, it's like images and titles and descriptions, and you've been optimizing for the algorithm. Now you need to think about optimizing for the agent, and agents want a lot more information, and it needs to have a layer of context. So from a Rufus perspective, when you're thinking about what you can optimize for Amazon, think about what are the questions that consumers are asking. And my favorite little super simple cheat code is go on any PDP, look under the main carousel images, and it gives you the questions that are popular for your category and your product. make sure that your content answers those questions. That's the number one thing that you should do first, because it means that people are using Rufus to have those conversations.
Totally. Interesting.
So that's the first one.
I mean, Amazon kind of has like a total, just random clustering of like the Amazon PDP is like, but those questions are actually like more relevant than they're given weight. I mean,
100%.
No, I don't know. I mean, I'm speaking for myself. Like when I find those questions, I'm like, oh, this is relevant. Why didn't I see this earlier? So
yeah, no, I totally agree. I was looking at a beauty product today, and it was a makeup product, and the question that Rufus said was, "Is this good for hyperpigmentation?" But when I went to the description and the bullets and all the images, it talked about dark spots, and I was like, "Well, people are using different language for how they're using this makeup, and maybe you need to add a different word or update that word like you would in SEO, right? Into your content." So there's also this big debate of like, is SEO dead? And like, are we only talking about answer engine optimization, or insert your acronym? But it's the foundation of everything that we're talking about.
Yeah. Interesting. No, I feel like we've left the era of keyword stuffing, but you should be keyword aware. Like,
oh, I like that.
Like you're there's two different ways to talk about something. You should be aware that like there's multiple ways to talk about it. And interesting.
And AI agents are leaning more towards natural language. So I actually think that there's an element of LLM or agentic discovery, however you want to call it, that's making things a bit more human, because it's not keyword stuffing and it's having a conversation with you. And that's why Q&A on your Amazon PDP, especially, in your enhanced content module, is so, so critical. The more Q&A you have, the more context you're providing to Rufus to then surface your product. So my favorite example, I have a very big dog. His name is Dewey, and he's a really tough chewer. Like he literally rips through everything. So like when I'm searching on Rufus, I'm always asking, okay, I have a tough chewer. What kind of toys, what kind of products would be good for him? And I always do this experiment where I type that in and it recommends a PDP. And a lot of the times, the ones that it's recommending actually has tough chewer in the images, the enhanced content. There's a Q&A, it's in the description, and it's in the bullets. So that's how it's kind of pulling all of that information in. And they're not the ones that appear top of search, which is also a really kind of interesting match if you ever do this experiment. It's not necessarily your number 2, number 3 on the first page of Amazon that you're appearing on Rufus.
Interesting. That's there certainly is like some difference. I love hearing that people that are winning on top of search aren't winning on Rufus. Like,
you do?
Well, yeah.
Why?
It creates an entry point for a challenger.
Totally agree with that.
And to me, that makes a marketplace fun and dynamic, as opposed to just he who has the biggest budget wins.
Well, that's why this era is different, Scott. And that's why it's so exciting for challenger brands. I'm making this presentation that I've been referring to, and it's very relevant to what we're talking about. But most categories, the majority of share is taken by challenger brands. I know that sounds crazy.
Oh, really?
But there was a study done, and I can share it with your audience. I can send the link, that the majority of share is taken by challenger brands from most of the bigger brands, because they're able to move faster. They're able to really kind of hone in on their consumer a bit more, and they just can adapt to changes. And that's a really big differentiator.
Well, I wonder if they also just get talked about more on
potentially
any social signals. Like, when's the last time you're going to see, when are you going to see Dove soap versus a Dr. Squatch get talked about? I think I don't know if Dove's a great example, but like just like take your like run of the mill soap brand from like the 90s, 80s. It's been around forever versus like Dr. Squatch. Like people are going to mention on Reddit. Like they're just going to like, hey, I tried this. This was like different. It was a different experience. So
yeah, well, I think you bring up a good point there, because the way that LLMs look at different signals is they look for trust signals, and a big piece of that is citation. So where are you being talked about? So like when I think about LLMs, I try to put things in like simple buckets, just easier for me to think about. So when I think about how do you be successful from an LLM, AEO, GEO, insert your acronym kind of perspective, you need to be talked about, you need to be relevant, and you need to be found. And you kind of hit on the talked about piece, where you need to be cited in articles on Reddit, in YouTube. People need to be talking about your brand. And that's actually what's being pulled in by the LLMs. Yeah, so if you're a brand, go and see where your citations are coming from for your category, because it could be Reddit, but it could be like, I don't know, food and wine or wherever.
I was looking at the citations for a peach flavored energy drink, and it actually took me to an old, outdated Slick Deals like post where like, Slick Deals is a reputable site, and then like, one brand once ran like and it got posted there, and I was like, oh, this is interesting. As like a brand doesn't fully control like where they end up, but there's downstream effects of like just being around, making noise, doing stuff.
I mean, at the end of the day, Scott, it really kind of comes down to, you still have to be a really great product.
Yeah.
You have to be a great brand, and a brand that people love. And if you have a community that's talking about you and you're creating great content, like that's what's going to win. It's a crazy time because everyone has like a lot of hype around AI, but fundamentally, it's not much different from what people have been doing in e-commerce for the past 30 years. And most brands just need to get their content right. Like,
so you bring up a really good point. We've gone way into like the 2026 like conversation of like what's on right now. But like, tell me a bit more about like the fundamental problem that a large omni-channel brand kind of just like has, that like goes from chaos to like clarity. I don't know if I set you up like almost too easy, but
I mean, I think the first one would be data. That's the biggest challenge. I was talking to a brand the other day, and I was looking at their Walmart PDPs, and I was like, do you know that your product is in the wrong category because your taxonomy is incorrect? So then an LLM can't find your product, which it was supposed to be baby, but what is it? It was in hardware because they had the incorrect taxonomy, right? So like a big challenge and I think this is honestly a challenge for every brand. It's a bit more for the bigger brands because they might have 40,000 SKUs, but it's data. Because AI is not thinking the way we think it is. It's computing, right? So it's looking at data, it's understanding information and putting two and two together. So if you're feeding it incorrect data, it is going to spit out incorrect information and incorrect products.
Yeah.
So it's really hard to add AI onto something that's already broken. That's the biggest challenge I see right now.
Yeah.
And even knowing where your data is and having a source of truth, like all of that is so hard and has been hard for the 30 years since we've been in e-com.
And I mean, you bring up one point, like the volume of products that you have can like escalate this. I ran a private label brand. We had 110 products, and every time I was like, I wish this was like 15. I wish this was like 10, because you want to. I don't know. You want to like have like control or impact or influence, and it's tough. It's
so. Sorry. Yeah, I was just going to say, I worked on the brand side. So I led the digital shelf for J&J, and I had over 2,000 SKUs, and it's a lot to manage. And if you need to think about things like seasonal content, or you want to update your PDPs quarterly, which is considered best in class to update your content quarterly, that's really hard to do if, one, you don't even have the content for all of your SKUs, two, you don't have clean data, and three, you don't have the ability to create that content. And that's where I think we're finally in a place where AI can enable you to do all of those things. And I'm speaking for probably larger organizations here, where it can finally break down those walls of, you can't hire 15 more people to create content, but you can hire a team of 5 agents who can create that content for you and have a human in the loop to review it and then create that seasonal content and get it live. We're now actually able to do the things that we've talked about for so many years. And for the challenger brands, you can do these things even faster than before if you can have a team of agents who is writing your content, reviewing your content. You have an AI focus group who is saying, hey, we should change this, or look at what your competitors are doing. It just opens such an opportunity for everyone.
Totally. I want to catch, I think the last 4 months, I've probably said salsify more than I have my entire life. Not to say that it's a lot, but I just became a little bit more aware. And as I tell people, like we're attending the event that you work with on the DSI, which by the time this goes live will be in the past.
And it will have been amazing.
Yeah. The party is just like, people are just still like, just
raving about it.
Well, also recovering.
No. I mean, truth.
Well, as you know, business professionals are just totally known for just going over the top. But when I tell people, like, that was like what Salsify does, like, there's definitely like just like an under awareness outside of the core users. So catch me up. We've been dancing around it, but like, as you see it, what is the solution? Like, how Salsify do? Like we've almost talked about the pain points, but I want to learn about the company.
You think about product experience management. That's what it really comes down to, right? Okay. Like, where is the one place where you're managing all of your content around your products? I talked about that data struggle. This solves that, because it's your source of truth for all of your content about your product. Bullet points, images, enhanced content, supply chain data, pricing information, all of that lives in one place and then can be pushed out to all of your retailer partners. So go ahead.
I just wanted to ask, are you guys generating content for them, like with like AI or, okay.
Yeah, there is the capability to be able to do that, to create images based on product imagery that you already have. You can create kind of like enhanced imagery for the carousel, lifestyle images, so create copy.
It's a full suite now for like someone's, like what they would need in that space.
And it's also where the work gets done from a workflow perspective, right? So if you're thinking about, like, I'm going to use like my past experience as an example. If you need to get your copy reviewed by regulatory, and you need to get your copywriter team to look at it, and then you need to get it reviewed, the workflow, the actual process that needs to get done around the digital shelf is also housed in that product experience management platform. So the challenge for a lot of brands is that it can take 2 to 3 months if you're a bigger brand to create content, right? Like it takes a lot of time.
For new entrepreneurs that are willing to risk getting products taken down, little do we all know that, like, hey, there's a thing called like marketing legal, where it's like every claim, everything you say, like, actually I'm seeing, interestingly, and actually I don't know if you guys do much with TikTok Shop. I have to imagine that like it's part of it, but that I just heard yesterday that like if a TikTok creator says like, you're going to lose weight off of this, like, man, TikTok just like throws that out so fast, like
because it's a claim. So I worked in over-the-counter category, right? It's really, really important that you have regulatory involved in that, right? Because people are ingesting a medication. And so you can't be fancy with your claims, right? You need to be very, very clear. It needs to be scientifically backed. You need to support those claims. So it's very challenging for certain categories from a regulatory standpoint about what you're claiming. And I think that actually goes into the kind of trust world that is also a big question mark when it comes to AI, right? You need to make sure that it's backed and you have documentation and claim information to be able to support everything that you're talking about. And if you don't, and or if the product is not meeting those expectations, it will show up in those reviews. And then that content will get kind of dinged as it gets represented from an LLM perspective, because they're like, hey, you're selling this product, but people are saying that this isn't right, so we're not going to recommend it anymore. So It kind of comes full circle when you think about trust.
Interesting. I had not thought about, I guess like approvals, regulatory like that inside of an organization. Like, people don't just like go willy nilly. Like, I mean,
you can't, there's a legal aspect of it. Lauren, there's fines too.
Lauren, you'd be so like surprised what a entrepreneurial, like, just started, like, is willing to do and risk.
But it's different, right? It's a different world. They might not be, they're not, obviously they're not like a publicly traded company, it's different.
No, the risk profile is different, but it does catch up to them. Like,
I agree with you.
Trust me, like all the shady supplements sellers, like it catches up. Like they might get away with it for a month, 3 months, a year, but like, I mean, Amazon's under the gun, and they put the gun on their sellers. So we're very familiar with how that turns out.
But there's also something to learn from both sides of it, right? Like there's a world where larger organizations can be a bit more nimble and understand levels of risk on a digital shelf versus a physical shelf. And then there's a world where the smaller players can take a lesson from the bigger players and be like, okay, well, maybe we do have one legal review, or maybe we have a lawyer trained on digital, or whatever that looks like. But there needs to be kind of a balance and an in-between. I think it's very starkly on both sides, where sometimes at larger organizations, legal is a holdup, but the big challenge there is education. And I think that's where challenger brands like really have such an opportunity. Most of the people at their company are probably digitally native. They understand Amazon. They understand how to sell online. They have all that core education around being agile, being nimble, trying things. Like larger organizations may not have come up that way. And you might have people who are focused on the planogram in store and they never learned digital. So challengers really have that kind of benefit of not having to continuously educate people along the way.
Correct. Well, Digital Shelf Institute, DSI, people, is it just like open to anyone to join? Tell me about like who would gain the most out of it.
Yeah, I would say people who are in the e-commerce, commerce space, brands, retailers, thought leaders. It's free to become a member. You go to digitalshelfinstitute.org and you just fill out the form. I would say it's open to anybody in our industry. And it's a great way to kind of consume our content, see about events that we have, get involved in some of our networking opportunities. We have our big event that just happened in Atlanta. We do one in London. So lots of opportunities to get involved.
How long have you been involved with it?
Yeah, so I have been involved since 2021. So like I said, I was on the brand side before, and I was leading the digital shelf, then was a commerce strategist at Salsify, and then started leading the Digital Shelf Institute. And when I started, I think we had around like 1,500 members, and now we have 11,000. So I'm really, really proud of the community and how much it's grown. And I'm so grateful for everybody who is a part of it and contributes. And I hope that it's helpful and that everyone kind of gets involved and can learn something.
Awesome. Well, okay, everyone, you've heard it. If this speaks out to you, join it now. And so Lauren, thank you so much for coming on, educating us small folk. Or there's all stripes that listen. I was telling her, like I'm serious. Like I'm always surprised the people that tell me that they listen. That's the pod. Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Lauren.
Thanks for having me, Scott.
Okay, with that, we'll wrap up and we'll catch you guys next one.
1, 2, 3.